What a marvelous January we're having right now in Oklahoma with it a nice balmy 50 degrees outside when normally we fight ice and snow. I hope you're having a great week. I just want to remind you something coming up February 27th and 28th, or 26th and 27th here at First Baptist Broken Arrow. We're having a Fearless Faith Apologetics Conference. Now, if you're not familiar with the term apologetics, that doesn't mean you say, I'm sorry for my faith. It's a way to defend your faith. We got 3 great speakers going to be here Friday night, Saturday morning, doing a marvelous job of helping us know how can we speak truth in very clear, succinct ways to the objections of Christianity and really of the Bible. I hope you'll sign up. Keep in mind this date. Go to our website, register now, come early, and just plan to camp on this old hilltop up here with the great men of God. And let's see what we can learn about how to have a fearless faith. The reason that's much on my mind is because where we live in, we need some pretty stalwart Christians. Something's bad wrong, and you know that. The world is in a mess. There's something wrong when we see a coach that's fired for doing nothing more than walking the center of the field at the close of a ball game, kneeling in prayer, and over time his players began to join him because they respected him as a man, and rather than being praised as a great citizen, the school terminated his contract. Something's wrong with us. Something's wrong with this nation when a person can be indicted for doing whistleblowing on a group like Planned Parenthood for dismembering babies and selling the parts, and rather than punishing the ones that are doing the wrong, you indict the man who took the video. Something's wrong. Something's wrong when a special forces soldier can be thrown out of the Army because he stopped a grown man who had a boy tied to a bed in Afghanistan. He stopped a grown man from raping a boy, and the Army says, we're going to dismiss you from the Army. Something's wrong in the generation in which we live. Something's wrong when cities are making a mockery of just common sense. When cities like Houston tried to slip by the people of Houston a no-holds-barred system for bathroom use so that any weirdo in the world that says, I just feel like I'm another gender, can walk into a bathroom where your daughter or your son may be, and suddenly you're confronted with things you never dreamed of as a parent. Something's wrong with us. Well, the list would go on, but here's the point. We hear all that, and you think, goodness, what are we going to do? Well, the one thing we need to remember is we're not the first generation to deal with perversion, and we're not the first one to deal with evildoers, and we're not the first to ever deal with those people who are totally godless, who really make inroads into an otherwise good and godly society. Psalm 37, I'm fascinated, opens with the words, don't be fretful about evildoers. Well, you want to say, that's easy for you to say, David, but the truth is his generation was corrupt too. So corrupt at one point he himself committed adultery. Don't be agitated. Don't be fretful of evildoers who do not envy those who do wrong. They will wither quickly like the grass, and they will wilt like tender green plants. Now, what fascinates me is what God then promises He's going to do for those who are His if we do what He told us to do. Psalm 37:3 says, trust in the Lord, do what's good, dwell in the land and live securely. Verse 4 says, take delight in the Lord. That's more than just serve the Lord. It's delight in Him. You know how you delight in your children, your grandchildren, you delight in a marvelous meal, you delight in a football victory. He says, delight in the Lord, do what's good. Then you can dwell in the land and live securely. Did you hear that? That the way to have peace in your nation is to make God your delight. And then he says in verse 5, commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act and make your righteousness shine like the dawn. Well, that's what God called us to do, and that's what we ought to do. And every time we do what He says to do, He promises good things for us. Here's what He says. Here's what God says about His will for mankind. The righteous man is gracious and giving. And Psalm 37:21, verse 22 of Psalm 37, those who are blessed by Him will inherit the land, but those who are cursed by God are going to be destroyed. Man's steps are established by the Lord. He takes pleasure in His way. And though that man falls, listen to this, though that man of righteousness falls, he will not be overwhelmed because the Lord holds his hand. Isn't that good? You're not going to fall from his grace. You're not going to fall from his favor. If you're walking with God, even though you stumble or you commit some sin that you say, I have no idea what I was thinking, why did I do that? He says the same God who called you and saves you is still holding you by the hand even when you stumble. It's like a parent who's walking with a 2-year-old, just taking those tottering steps in a different area and making sure his footing doesn't slip. That parent holds his hand, and if he falls, he doesn't chastise him. He just gently picks him up and continues. The Bible says your hand is in the hand of the Lord. I love this part of what David said. Psalm 37:25, I've been young, and now I'm old. I've not seen the righteous abandoned. I've not seen God's children begging bread. God's always generous. He's always lending. His children are a blessing. And then he says this, turn away from evil. Do what is good. You know, I like that. God says if you'll do these things, listen, you can live in utter chaos around you. But if you live in the peace of God, no matter what's happening out here, you experience the security and grace that comes from the Almighty. Here's what he says, turn from evil and you focus on doing good. Years ago, my father-in-law was a farmer in Alabama, and I'd love to go watch him farm in the fall, especially when he's harvesting soybeans. He planted soybeans, wheat, and raised some cattle, and I know nothing about farming, but it sure fascinated me. And I'd love to be there when, he's out doing his farm work. And one day when I was there, one year we were there in the spring, and Papa said to me, Nick, we just got this new tractor. It was a white brand, not a color, but a brand. It had dual rear tires, and a big old tractor, air-conditioned cab. Son, I'd have driven that to a funeral. It had AC, air conditioning. It had, back then, a tape player. Everything you could want on a tractor, and then it still did farm work. So he said, Nick, would you like to go out tomorrow with me when I'm plowing? I said, I'd love to. So we got up early in the morning. I don't know why farmers start at 4:30. It's like they're afraid the dirt's going to go somewhere. I don't know. But 4:30 in the morning, I'm standing in his kitchen. I had on my best khaki pants, a knit shirt, a pair of penny loafers. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to go farming. He said, not in that, you're not. And so he stepped in his washroom, got on one of those orange coveralls that prisoners wear. You zip up the front, one size fits all. Got me an oversized pair of Brogan boots and put socks in the toes and put those babies on my feet and a co-op hat on my head, and I was ready to go, I guess. All of 4:45, we were good to go. Got out there in the dark, and he was servicing the tractor, getting everything ready. When the sun came up, we were out there in the field. He said, Nick, you want to drive? You want to learn to plow? I said, sure, man, I'd love to drive that tractor. And I'm looking at the tape player and air conditioning. He said, what? This is what you need to know. Here's how you control the plow. Here's how the throttle works. And I'm okay, yeah. So I get in that big old tractor, that plow behind me, and I'm going through the field, and I'm thinking, I kind of got to see how I'm doing. And I turned around to look back, and I thought I was doing pretty good. Drove a little further and turned around and looked back again. About the third time I turned around, I saw Papa waving his hands running across the field. Whoa, Nick, ho, Nick. I thought he was going to brag on me. So I stopped the tractor, and Papa came over and opened the door. Get out of my tractor, he said. I said, wow, Papa. He said, get down out of my tractor. I said, well, did I tear something up? Get down out of the tractor, boy. I said, well, Papa, I don't understand. He said, have you ever read the New Testament? And I was a pastor. That's hurtful. You ever read the New Testament? Yes, sir, I have. He said, well, you didn't read it very good. What do you mean? It says in the Bible, no man putting his hand to the plow and looking back, fit for the kingdom. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, look at those furrows you just cut. Well, they did have a little bit of a designer weave, but I thought they're pretty good. He said, son, those won't work. I got to go back and redo that because those got to be straight. I said, okay, Papa, how do you make them straight? He said, when you get in that tractor, you focus on something across the other side of the field, a post, a tree or something. He said, you focus on that, and don't you get your eyes off that till you get to the other side of the field. He said, as long as you're watching where you're going and focus on the object, you'll get there in a straight path. That's good wisdom for life. God said, turn from evil, focus on good. The Bible says, old things have passed away, all things have become new. The Bible says, I've died to my old self, and now I'm focusing on Jesus. What are you going to do in the evil world? Fret over evildoers? That's not going to help you do anything, get an ulcer. The Bible says, don't you fret over them. You trust in the Lord, and you do good, and He'll give us the desires of our heart. God bless you.